From an extremely young age, a lot of us have been fed this idea either from our parents or by society or by our peers, teachers, or both, that we need to be successful in order to be someone who is valuable or who is important in life. The way that we tend to view things in these more Western nations is that if you are not successful, then there's something wrong with you. And the amount of success determines not only your worth, but also most likely your happiness. We believe that the more things that you acquire, the more money that you make, the more enjoyable your life will be. The thing is, I have a big problem with this way of thinking because for a lot of people who do end up in these highly successful positions, they're oftentimes not that much more happy than the people who are earning around 100K or 200K, which are still very respectable, good salaries, but it's nowhere near the millions of dollars or billions of dollars that some people are making. So why is it that some people can find happiness at much more normal middle class levels of earnings? And why is it that some people still can't be happy even once they've earned millions and millions of dollars? In this video, we're gonna go over what actually makes a happy life and how your vision of success in your head can really get in the way of you living a happy life. And we're also going to go over why most people don't actually end up achieving their goal of becoming a millionaire and becoming a billionaire, and why the goal they're setting might be the wrong one in the first place. And we're going to go over why people set these incorrect goals and how do you actually set a correct goal and how do you know if this goal is correct. So in order to go into all of this, first we need to understand the typical process that people go about when they actually set goals for themselves and when they kind of try to decide what they want to do with their lives. A lot of people, especially people in the South Asian community, in the Asian community, we get really pressured by our parents in order to be extremely successful, in order to make a lot of money. And so what we'll do is we'll set some kind of big goal that's either imposed on us by our parents, by society, by other people. Someone in our lives thinks that we should be doing XYZ thing. So we set that big goal, we aim for a lot of money, a lot of success, and we're initially very excited. And we make a solid progress for a short period of time. You can even see this in, like New Year's resolutions. These are kind of a microcosm of these types of goals. You'll set this big goal, you'll be really excited, and you'll constantly think about the end result of getting to that goal. You think about how good it's going to be when you actually get there. You're constantly thinking about the goalpost. When you're finally going to get there, you're finally going to be happy. You're going to feel so good when you're a doctor, when you're a millionaire, when you're this, when you're that. And for a short period of time, you can do extremely well at moving towards this goal. However, when you hit the first bump in the road or the second bump in the road, you feel a little antsy, you feel a little uncomfortable, and some dread starts to build. And you no longer feel as excited. Sure, it's exciting to tell your friends about the new business idea that you're starting and how successful it's going to be, but it's a lot less exciting actually going to investors and then making pitches to them and being rejected over and over again. The more snags that you hit in the road, the more and more discouraged you become, and eventually you deem it impossible and feel that the people who did achieve this goal are just, lucky, or they had some kind of genetic trait that you didn't. So in this typical example where people set a goal and then they end up failing and then they end up thinking that there's something wrong with them and that they just were not good enough to achieve the goal, oftentimes it's not even that the person was not built for the goal or they weren't capable of achieving the goal. Oftentimes these people are more than capable of achieving the goal that they set out to do, which is why they set out to do it in the first place. But the issue is that the goal that they were chasing was the wrong one. Throughout this whole example and throughout most of people's goals, if you look at them, they're hyper fixated on the end result, on where they want to be, rather than the path that they have to take to get there. What most people don't understand about goals is that goals aren't really the important thing. Achieving a goal is a high that lasts extremely, extremely temporarily. There's a really good speech I'm going to link in the video description of this valedictorian who won valedictorian, and he felt really good for 15 seconds. And the whole speech is titled "The 16th second," because after that 16th second, he no longer felt as good as he did the previous 15 seconds. And the rush of getting that achievement that he had worked so hard for no longer was that important to him. And that's when he realized how fruitless it is to try and achieve goals. The point of goals is not actually, in a sense, to achieve them. It's just to give you an excuse to follow a process to achieving that goal day in and day out. Let me be more clear on that and explain further what I mean. The actual goal itself is not important. What you kind of want to have in mind is you're setting a challenge up for yourself. And the reason you're setting that challenge is just to give you an excuse to do something that you enjoy doing every day anyway. It's just to give yourself a direction. At the end of the day, the goals that you set are really just kind of excuses for you to do things that you enjoy on a day-to-day basis anyway. That's what all of life really boils down to. We're just trying to find things to do that we enjoy on a day-to-day basis. And the focus should not actually be on the goal that we're trying to achieve, but it should more be focused on the things that we're going to do in our day-to-day lives. And will those be enjoyable or not is the question that we should be asking ourselves. So now that we kind of understand that, let's go into some telltale signs that like the goal that you're setting is actually the correct one. And as I explain this, if this concept is still a little confusing to you, it'll clear up a little bit more. So I'm going to give a shout out to Heidi Priebe, one of my favorite YouTubers. She's super cool. She made a video all about this. When you're chasing a goal and using it as kind of like a means of self-regulation, and it's not actually a realistic goal for you to pursue. In this video, she talks about how basically like when you're chasing a goal, and the way that you know if this goal is good for you or not is if you think about what are you thinking about when you think about this goal. For example, in my life, right, I wanted to start a computer science startup, and this was a super exciting idea for me. But when I thought about the goal, all that I thought about was, oh, I'm gonna be a millionaire one day. I imagined counting all my money. I imagined being in a mansion, having a nice car, being able to tell people that I was extremely wealthy. That was the exciting part. The end goal, the actual place that I was going to get to was the extremely exciting part. That's what I wanted to do every single day, and I wanted to be there as soon as possible. I didn't actually ever think about the day-to-day process of getting to that point. And the day-to-day process was, working really long hours, having to code when I didn't really feel like coding, having to reach out to a lot of people, doing lots of marketing, doing lots of business stuff that I didn't really feel like doing, having to do a lot of networking. These were all things that weren't really personally my cup of tea, but they were required for me to actually get to that end goal. And that was the real process that I was not looking at. And again, if we think back to what we were talking about before, this lines up exactly with what makes certain goals bad goals, is when you're focused on the end goal and not actually the process of getting there. The idea of a successful startup wasn't an excuse for me to work on a successful startup every day. The successful startup was the thing that I actually wanted. I didn't want to work to actually get there. So now that we understand that, how do you know if the goal that you have in mind is actually a good goal? Again, when you're thinking about it, are you thinking about the day-to-day tasks that you're gonna have to do in order to achieve that goal? So for me, things actually like starting a YouTube channel are extremely exciting. When I think about starting a YouTube channel, I don't think about, having millions of subscribers and being hyper successful. I actually just enjoy the process of making videos, explaining things, getting ideas out from my head, onto like a video format. Editing videos is super fun. Getting to see what other people think and having other people comment on my videos and engaging in discussion, that's the part that I'm excited for and what I'm excited to do. The success itself isn't really the fun part for me. It's just a kind of goalpost I've set up for myself just to kind of give me direction on when it comes to actually, making videos and stuff like that, and then, doing advertising and stuff like that. Of course, success is nice, and we're going to kind of hop into that part as well. So basically, to summarize this part of the video, what we have looked at so far is bad goals are defined by us setting a goal and then wanting to achieve that goal, and that being the primary driver is the actual achievement of the goal, not the process to getting to the goal. And how we know if we're setting a bad goal is if when we're thinking about the goal, we're constantly thinking about the end result and not actually the process of getting there, when we're like fantasizing about the goal in our head. And we know that we've set a good goal if we're excited for the process of getting to that goal every day more than the actual goal itself. Remember, the goal is just an excuse for us to do something every single day. So now that we understand that, there's another component of this that I want to touch on before we dive into the kind of realism dose that we need, which is, you need to make money at the end of the day. So how do you incorporate making money into all of this? And how do you, live a sustainable life? But we'll get into that in a second after we understand the second part, which is letting go of the ego. A big obstacle for a lot of people to living the life that they want to live is actually just the ego. A lot of times we see ourselves as being extremely important. We think that we need to be successful. We need to have a legacy that lives on past our lives. And we have these ideas about like, if we're not successful, if we're not remembered, then the life that we've lived is really not a life worth living. However, the thing that actually really helped me challenge this idea and get over it is when you fully accept how insignificant we are. As depressing as it is to think about it, the thing is, no matter how much success you achieve, you can be the most successful person ever in the history of mankind. Eventually, we will all be wiped out. We will no longer be here, and no one will remember what it is that you have done, no matter how successful you become. A good example of this is someone like Charlie Chaplin, or Chaplin. I don't know what his name is. I'm going to pop it up right here. This is just what he looked like. Some of us still remember him today, But at that time, he was one of the most successful people by far of his time. Like, he was such a massive celebrity, and now barely any people remember him. And in, 50 or so years, even fewer people will remember him. He reached a height of success that most people can never dream of even achieving. And he still was eventually forgotten and will eventually be forgotten. No matter who you are, you will be forgotten. And once you accept that the chasing of success simply to be remembered or to have a legacy is pointless, you can start engaging in much more fulfilling pursuits. Because a lot of us will chase success, will chase money, will chase all of these things in order to have a legacy, in order to be remembered. And the thing is, it's pointless, because if we're gonna be forgotten anyway, we might as well live a life and chase goals that are exciting to us and that bring us joy. We might as well chase goals where we enjoy the process of actually achieving that goal. Having that kind of realization was incredibly important for me. Now, with all of this being said, once we kind of, take into account that we're all going to be insignificant and we might as well chase an enjoyable life, all of this stuff, the common kind of incorrect counter argument to this is, why not just bathe in hedonism? Why not just, do whatever we want, just, do as many drugs as we want, have as much sex as we want, and just fill our lives with pleasure? And as any drug addict knows, the reason that you don't do this is because this is not actually what leads to a happy, fulfilling life. What leads to a happy, fulfilling life is chasing goals. Again, is this comes back to this same concept. Doing things that are working towards an eventual goal that you may or may not reach, but that are enjoyable and fulfilling in the long run. So things like drugs, alcohol, sex, constantly engaging in pleasure are not going to get you there, because they're extremely unsatisfying and painful to do. Any drug addict knows that that doesn't lead to a happy life. And the reason for that is because it's actually very similar to chasing a goal, to chasing success, and to, running for that one day I'll be happier. It's the same thing with getting high or having sex all the time or doing drugs. It's you're pulling yourself away from the most important moment in your life, which is the present moment. With a lot of these kind of ideas of where you have a goal and you enjoy the process of getting to that goal and you don't care about the goal itself, the reason that works so well and creates so much happiness and joy is because you're focused on the process of getting there, which means you're focused on the present moment. You're here in the now. And that is the only moment that we have, and that is the only place where you can be truly satisfied and happy and content with life and live a fulfilling, enjoyable life. The less present we are, the less satisfying our life is. There's even a study that kind of goes over that, but anyone who's been a drug addict knows drugs pull you away from the present moment. They take you away from things as they are. Being in the present moment doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be extremely happy all the time, but it means, sitting with anxiety, sitting with sadness, sitting with the okay days, sitting with the bad days, and just being there for them. That's all you really need to do. That alone will add so much joy. And again, if you're excited for the process towards moving towards a goal, if you're excited for the day-to-day grind that you're going to be participating in, it makes it a lot easier to be present and to be focused. And you're not going to want to be present or be focused if you're running towards a goal that you hate running towards. You need to enjoy running towards or moving towards that goal. So with all of this being said, the final point that we have to dive into and that we have to discuss, because it's critical in today's economy, is how do you make money and still do this? Because I absolutely do not advocate completely for the passion mindset where you just do your passion, you just do what you're passionate about. Because the reality is that if you just do things that you're passionate about, you might not make enough money to sustain yourself, and you need to make enough money to sustain yourself. So how do we tie realism into all of this? And the answer to that is with the book So Good They Can't Ignore You. This book is absolutely amazing. What it essentially states is you kind of want to forget about your passion. You want to forget about things where it's like, you really enjoy doing XYZ thing, but it's not going to be, paying you very well. For me, for example, I love making music, I love psychology, but these things aren't going to pay me as much as computer science. And in computer science and data science, I am very skilled. I naturally have an ability and an inclination to do incredibly well in those fields. What you have to do is you have to find things that you have some natural inclination towards and that pay really well. And so the overlap between those things, I'll be honest, is oftentimes small. But once you find that thing, once you find that thing that you really enjoy and that you're slightly better at than other people, or you seem to just have a natural kind of drawing to it, it feels pretty good. what you want to do is you just want to get as good as you can at that thing. Like for me, right, I had that natural, inclination towards computer science. I didn't love it, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to try and get really good at computer science and data science. So I started just working as hard as I could. I didn't really enjoy it. It was kind of boring, but at the end of the day, I felt pretty satisfied because I was watching my skills grow. And again, the end goal in mind was to just become an extremely skilled computer scientist, which another kind of cool thing you can do with goals is set goals that can never be achieved, but that will continuously put you in a process that you enjoy. And for me, I really enjoy the process of becoming a better programmer, learning new programming languages, and just getting better and better and improving my skill. And to do that, what I had to do was just work really hard in order to just improve my skills and get better and better. And the better and better that I got, the more and more I enjoyed it, and the more the passion actually developed. So what Cal Newport basically argues in this book is that the passion isn't something that you find. It's not something that just appears out of nowhere. Everyone kind of has a slight natural inclination towards things as a child, and they get kind of really good at that thing. And then as an adult, they find themselves passionate about it. But it's just because they've spent a lot of time actually honing and cultivating that skill. If you think about any skill you have, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, anything like that, you've probably spent hours and hours and hours as a child doing that thing just for fun, which is why you're now so good at it and why you're now so passionate about it. That feeling of mastery is incredibly satisfying. And if you're really good at something, the process towards getting to another spot, doing that thing can be extremely enjoyable. So if you're a really good chef, making a successful kitchen is probably going to be really fun because you're a good chef. You enjoy doing that thing. Same thing with making music. Making an album is going to be really fun if you're already really good at making music because it's something you have mastery over. So to tie everything together, right? You want to set goals that are, goals for something you will enjoy. You want to set goals where the goal itself isn't important. It's the process towards getting there that actually is extremely important. It's the biggest difference between people who succeed and people who don't is people who succeed genuinely enjoy the process of getting to their success. They actually don't care that much about the success. That's why a lot of millionaires and businessmen don't retire after they, become millionaires. They keep doing the same thing because they just love doing it. Being a millionaire is a byproduct of enjoying the process of becoming a millionaire. So that's one big thing to consider. Then, we went over how do you know if you have a realistic goal? The way that you know is that when you fantasize about the goal, you're thinking about the actual process of getting there, not the end result. Then you also have to let go of the ego. Realize we're all insignificant. We're all going to die anyway. So you might as well enjoy your days on earth and move towards a goal that's meaningful and enjoyable to you. Let go of the need to be significant. And then when it comes to making money, when you're choosing that actual goal that you want to work towards, choose something that you have a natural inclination towards, and then work really hard at kind of improving that thing. And the joy will kind of come in and of itself after some time. The joy should kind of be there, already, but for some people, it may come a little slower than others. I know for me, for computer science, while I did like computer science, it wasn't something I immediately loved. It might take some time, but eventually you want to enjoy the process. You should not dread and hate the process completely. It might be a little unpleasant, but that's okay. You want to focus on building a life where the day-to-day is the enjoyable part. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching and take care.